Welcome back everybody to Unit 9. So in our previous video, we discussed types of businesses, and in this video, we'll discuss types of competition. So with our sole proprietorship, partnerships, and corporations in mind, we'll discuss types of competition. And there are 4 different types of competition. And again, there are a lot of sets of 4 in this particular unit. But first, vocab. And shocker, there are 4. All right, so we're going to zoom into each one of these. The first thing we need to realize that impacts competition between businesses is consumer sovereignty. And we've discussed sovereignty when we talked about types of governments. This means your right to rule or your right to hold authority over people. A consumer, a person who is using a good or service, is who decides what is produced. So out of our 4 economic questions, what are we making? How are we making it? How much is produced? And who are making this for? The consumer gets to decide what is produced. So the customer is always right, even though they're really not. All right, the next one is pure competition. So this means that no one person or group controls the market on a product, and there are no barriers to enter the market. All right, so there are no giant corporations squashing little baby businesses. It's every business for themselves. It is pure competition, and then there's no regulation. That's not really a thing in today's markets, but we would like to think that it is, okay? So let's say, for example, in Greenville, you decide to open a restaurant, okay? I don't know if y'all know this, but Greenville has the highest number of businesses or number of restaurants per person in the entire United States of any city, okay? So if you take the number of people and you divide by the number of restaurants, we have the most options per person in the country, okay? So if you want to open a restaurant in Greenville, that's fine. We can definitely afford to have another place to eat. However, you're going to have to go up against 5 Bojangles and 3 Cookouts and however many Zaxby's, so on and so forth, okay? So that's pure competition. All right, so profit motives or incentives mean that you have your motive always is profit, okay? But you do decide, let's say you have a pickle company, okay? That was my example in our previous video. But individuals are willing to give up a factor of production for personal gain. So our factors of production, like we talked about, are land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurship, okay? So individuals are willing to give up one of these for personal gain. So if let's say you do labor yourself, like a lot of people when they flip their house decide to do all the demolition work themselves so they don't have to pay somebody for it. Their personal gain is having more money to spend on other things, okay? So a factor of production, you give up part of it for personal gain. And the last one is free enterprise. So individuals answer all the economic questions. What are we making? How much are we making? Who are we making it for? And how are we doing it? And it allows for free trade. We call this capitalism in the United States. All right, so let's discuss our 4 types of competition. The first one is nonprofits. Now, a lot of people think that nonprofits don't actually make money. That's not the truth. They do make money, but they don't keep it for themselves, okay? So they're not interested in making a full-out profit. They want to benefit society. So, for example, the American Cancer Society, Habitat for Humanity, Girl Scouts, the Salvation Army. Listen, those Girl Scouts who are out here hustling Thin Mints in January every year, and they definitely get me. I'm okay with having a Thin Mint dealer, all right? After everybody who works for the Girl Scouts of America is paid, the remainder of their profits go back to the Girl Scouts themselves. So if in the form of like rewards or prizes and stuff like that, or helping them out with getting an award. So the Girl Scout has bronze, silver, and gold awards depending on your service projects. The American Cancer Society benefits those who have cancer or family members of those who have cancer. They give them wigs, rides to and from chemo, paying for parents of like little children or family members to stay in a hotel while that person is getting chemo by the hospital, if the hospital is a long way away from where they live, that type of thing. Habitat for Humanity builds houses for people, that sort of thing. And the Salvation Army, the Santas who ring the bell outside of all the stores at Christmas, their profits, after everybody gets paid who works for these companies, all of their profits go back to the community. So they do make a profit, but they don't keep it like Jeff Bezos from Amazon or Bill Gates from Microsoft. All right, so monopolistic competition is a Big old mouthful, okay? But it's not that difficult. You've seen it before in your life, you just don't know what it's called, okay? So this means that many companies that have similar products compete with one another, and no one company has total control. Let's take, for example, cereal boxes, okay? Let's say that Kellogg's Frosted Flakes are no longer a thing. They're great, but they're gone from all the shelves. Let's say, for example, tomorrow you cannot find Frosted Flakes in any store in the United States of America. Okay, the amount of money that you're going to have to pay for Lucky Charms, Pops, Captain Crunch, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Trix, whatever, Lucky Charms, I probably already said that, right? Whatever you pay for those cereals that still exist is not going to increase or decrease very dramatically, okay? Let's say, for example, we go move to a restaurant, okay? In Greenville, we have 5 Bojangles, okay? If the Bojangles on Arlington, like right on the corner by Arlington and Fire Tower, if that Bojangle shuts down, the amount of money that you pay for a Bowberry in the other 4 Bojangles is not going to increase or decrease, okay? Losing 1 Bojangles is like one monkey does not stop the show, okay? So losing 1 Bojangles is not going to hurt if you have this type of competition. So there's a whole bunch of fast food restaurants in Greenville, okay? And that does not necessarily hurt them to close. Another example of this would be us recently getting a 3rd cookout. Just because we have 3 cookouts now does not mean that every other Bojangles is going to lose money or every other Bojangles is going to have to increase their products, okay? You're still going to pay the same thing for a Bowberry as you did before, but now there's just one more set of people who are going to be competition for you, okay? That's monopolistic competition. So monopolistic is similar, and then you're competing against one another. All right, an oligopoly is a little bit different. So as we go through these 4 types of competitions, we're going to go from more people involved and more businesses to less businesses involved. So this next one is an oligopoly. Please say it out loud. Oligopoly. All right, this is a few companies that compete with similar products, and in one company either opening or closing can greatly impact the market, okay, because there's less competition involved. Let's say, for example, you've seen this with your phone, okay, so we've got like AT&T, Sprint, Verizon, T-Mobile, and here in Eastern North Carolina we've got US Cellular as well, okay. Let's say, for example, Verizon goes out of business tomorrow. There's no more Verizon. It's not a thing. What do you think is going to happen to the amount of money that you're going to pay to get a new plan for your phone at AT&T? If you said increase, you'd be correct, because now their biggest competition, AT&T's biggest competition, Verizon, RIP, is no longer a thing. Okay, so that means that they can increase their prices to whatever they want. A similar situation would happen between Coke and Pepsi. Let's say, for example, I hope this doesn't happen because I like some Coke products, but let's say, for example, that Coca-Cola in every single thing that they make goes out of business tomorrow and every Coke product gets yanked off the shelves. Pepsi is going to lose their minds because they have nobody else to force their prices down. All right? Like, let's put aside our taste preferences between Coke and Pepsi. They're very similar in price because the two of them exist and they're pretty much each other's only competition. So if Pepsi shuts down, or Coke, we'll keep on with our same example. If Coke shuts down, there is nobody around to make Pepsi shove their prices down anymore. So a can of Pepsi or a bottle of Pepsi is going to cost you a lot more if Coca-Cola goes away. All right, so that is an oligopoly. When there's very few companies, they have similar products, and if one of them opens or closes, it's going to cause a big old impact on everybody else. So instead of you paying $1.59 for your Pepsi like you do now, let's say it's 99 cents a can just to help it out. So let's say, for example, it's $1 a can now, but when Coke closes, they're going to charge you like $3 a can for that Pepsi because there's nobody else to compete and shove their prices down. Now, that's with a few companies. What happens if there's just one company who's involved? We'll look at this for just a second. When you go into a grocery store, the vast majority of stuff that is inside of the grocery store is part of some of these giant companies. So if you're like, yes, I want Kellogg's Frosted Flakes or whatever, they're all from Kellogg's, okay? You got General Mills cereals, so your Cheerios, your Chex Mix, Kix, Honey Bunches of Oats, that type of thing, they're all from General Mills. Nestle products are like Toll House stuff, Nescafe for coffee, all that kind of thing. Coca-Cola has all of these products. Fanta belongs to Coca-Cola. I think Mr. Pibb does as well. Fuse, Dasani water, Perrier, so like the sparkling water, that belongs to Coca-Cola. Unilever is in charge of all of this stuff. So most of these, like the Cadbury, the egg people, they're in charge of all of these different things. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. There we go. Eggo waffles, if you have never noticed, they're the same G as Kellogg's. Dun, 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 dun. Sour Patch Kids belong to like Cadbury. They're the egg people. These little like Jacks or whatever belong to them. Let's see, what else? I feel like we don't have Star Bars here. Or like Dentine, Trident, Bubble, like Bubblicious, those ones that come in like a little tape roll, belongs to Cadbury Eggs, which is part of Mondelez Company, which used to be called Kraft Foods. So all your Kraft stuff is part of this. Oligopoly, people, in action at your grocery store. Or like for another example, the Global Studios here. This is why we've had like 17 versions of Spider-Man, because Spider-Man has bounced back and forth between Sony and Marvel, and Sony is owned its own thing, and Walt Disney Studios or Pictures now owns Marvel. So that's why we are able to relaunch and have our current Spidey. All right. Moving right along to a monopoly. This is when one company controls all of the things in that market. It is illegal in the United States unless the government operates it and shoves the price down for you. So, for example, every single human being in Pitt County gets their electricity from Greenville Utilities. Nobody else, okay? You cannot get your utilities and your electricity from anyone but Greenville Utilities because it is operated by the federal government. It's just your local branch, okay? The United States Postal Service has a monopoly on mail. You can only buy stamps from the post office. I know there's like stamps.com or whatever. They get their stamps from the post office also. Okay, so the post office has a monopoly on mailing, which is why it is so cheap to mail stuff. De Beers Diamonds is an international monopoly. Every single diamond on the face of this planet comes out of a mine that is owned by the De Beers Diamond Company. So when people tell you, oh, there's a diamond shortage, that's why they're so rare and expensive, that is absolutely false, okay? There is not a diamond shortage. They're pretending like there's a diamond shortage so that they can charge you more money for stuff because people like to pay expensive amounts of money for rare things, okay? So De Beers Diamond Mining Company is another example of an international monopoly. All right, so how do corporations get there? How do we go from being like Walmart to ruling every single other thing? Well, there's two ways, okay? You can have a vertical monopoly or a horizontal one. So a vertical one is called a conglomerate. You buy every company that is involved in production. Let's say we're talking about pickles. I love talking about pickles because they're delicious, okay? Let's say I'm talking about Mount Olive, and I want to be the only pickle company in the United States. Instead of buying up everybody who's my competition, I just shut them out, okay? So I buy all the vinegar companies that supply me my vinegar. I buy all of the glass companies that provide me with jars. I buy the metal plant that provides me with metal lids for my jars. I buy the plastic plant that provides me with plastic labels to put on my pickle jars. I buy every single zucchini farm and every cucumber farm that is in North Carolina and is in the United States so that I make the cheapest product and therefore nobody else can compete with me and I can put them out of business. Okay, kind of sneaky, but that's a conglomerate. Okay, now the opposite way to do this is a horizontal monopoly. This is a merger. Okay, you buy all the similar companies. So instead of trying to buy every piece of my business, I just buy all the businesses that look like mine. Okay, so I buy the Clausen Dill Pickle Company. I don't even know who else does pickles besides Mount Olive. But I buy every other pickle company so that I am the only one left. And this has been Types of Competition.